Hello, and welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast. I'm Stephanie May Potter, and I'm here with my co-host, Marnie Dotches-Marmette.
We created the Art of Living Well podcast to empower you to live your happiest, healthiest, and most authentic life. Each week, we will bring you inspiring and motivating conversations covering health and wellness topics, including fitness, mindset, food, travel, product reviews, and strategies from a variety of experts, including our own bank of knowledge.
We are excited to educate, motivate, and inspire you to change the way you perceive health and discover your art of living well. Get ready to feel inspired.
Hey Stephanie, can you believe that the average mass-produced bottle of wine can contain up to 16 grams of added sugar?
I know, that's crazy. That's more than a glazed donut.
Whew, which kind of grosses me out. But anyway, we're so excited because we finally found clean crafted wine that we enjoy, that tastes good, and we don't feel like crap the next day.
I am loving these Scout and Cellar wines. We've tried several of the different types, and all of them taste good, like Marnie said. And we love the fact that there's no added sugar. They're free of chemicals and pesticides. They're grown with organic grapes and sustainable farming practices. And they have very low sulfites, which are one of the things that can often cause the headaches the next day.
And, you know, it's summertime, it's patio season. It's so nice to just get outside. If you enjoy having a glass of wine, we are super excited to be part of Scout and Cellar, and we do have our online shop.
So you just head on over to www.scoutandcellar, that's SCOUTANDCELLAR.com/the art of living well. You can have clean crafted wine delivered to your door.
Hello, and welcome to episode 32 of the Art of Living Well podcast. Today's guest is Laura Swartz. Laura is a triathlete who has competed nationally and internationally at amateur world championships 3 times. She's married and she's a mother to 3 children. 2 are in college and 1 is in high school. And she also volunteers at various organizations, including Planned Parenthood and the USAT Triathlon Foundation. I'm so happy to have Laura on the show today. I've known her for many years now. Our parents are close friends. Our college-age boys were actually in preschool together, and we have many, many friends in common. And although Laura and myself, our paths don't cross that often, I've always really enjoyed talking with you, being inspired by you when I see you, and totally in awe of everything that you're doing athletically. And so it was so fun to have this conversation with you and really dive into what motivates you, being over 50, you know, you talk about why you're still racing. And I just think it's so amazing to hear how intrinsically driven and motivated you are. And you motivate me and inspire me to do better athletically. So, and I'm sure there are many, many others. And I always think about, after our conversation, about maximizing my own potential. Anyway, super excited to dive in today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. And here we are with Laura Swartz. Thank you, Laura, so much for being here today. We're so excited to have you. And we wanted to start off by sharing with our listeners a little bit about your background and about your journey and how you kind of got started in racing and what made you decide to run your first marathon.
First of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on your podcast. Back in 1994, I started running marathons as an outlet from a release from work. I found that running was really the best thing for my stress relief. And then I joined Northwest Club Run. For those of you that don't know, Northwest was a predecessor to Lifetime Fitness. And I loved having a group of people to train with. I thought it was amazing. I made connections and actually met my husband in the process of running my first marathon. We were both training for our first grandmas. We met at work, but it was the running that brought us together.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
little side
cool.
story.
Yeah.
So, and I kept telling my friends at Club Run that I would keep training until something hurt, and then I was going to stop. And lo and behold, nothing went wrong, and I did my first marathon, and I was hooked. Actually, truth be told, I didn't do it the next year, and I was not fun to be around. I was cranky as my then boyfriend was running it. I knew I had to get back into racing.
So you were hooked right away, but you didn't run your first one for 2 years,
well,
it sounds like, or?
No, actually, so I was hooked right away. I ran one. Sorry, I'm kind of, it's a long time ago. I ran Grandma's Marathon in 1994. And then I took a year off in 95, probably because of work and stress. But then I found actually that working out was the stress reliever I needed. And I was a much happier person. So I got back into it, ran another one in, I think 96, and then qualified for Boston in 96 and ran it in 97. And then after running a number of marathons, my husband got into trying a triathlon. And I thought, oh, that looks like fun. So I recruited my identical twin sister and another Club Run person. And we did a team. And we did a triathlon team, a relay, which is a great way to enter the sport. If you are like, oh, I can run, but I can't swim. But I did it. And I thought, oh my goodness, I think I could do the whole thing. And what a cool challenge that would be. But then
to interrupt you, you probably don't even know this, but I think I kind of met you guys around that time. Oh. I mean, I had known you guys for years because of our parents and whatever, but I ended up doing a couple triathlons after hearing more from Missy, because I think I knew her back then better than I knew you, which is her twin sister. And you guys inspired me to go out and do some triathlons. So Jordan and I both did a couple right around that time.
Oh, that's great.
Which is just so funny.
Yeah.
I haven't done them since, but.
Well, we'll get you back. So then, the process of having kids, I actually didn't do or I shouldn't say process. I was fortunate to have kids. After I did the relay, I got pregnant with my first child. And so then I didn't complete my first full triathlon on my own till the next summer. And then I was really hooked. And in between having my next two kids, I kept racing more for fun and an outlet. I went to spin classes at Northwest, and that's actually where I met my first swim coach. He was on a spin bike next to me, and he coached the St. Louis Park High School team. And he said, I can help you swim, because we can all swim, right? But then there's learning and efficiency, and I knew I wanted to get better. And some of that is why I do this, or I guess a lot of that is why I do this, is that I feel like there's always opportunity. So the racing for me is, it's about my own goals and being in control and having something to look forward to. And now that I've been a stay-at-home mom, racing is an outlet for me, still a stress reliever, different, but it's an outlet and it challenges me. And my husband could tell you that I could win a race and I'll still analyze it to death as to what I could have done better.
Well, think of what I'm thinking as a mom, what a great example you're setting for your kids, to have your own thing and to have that competitive drive and to keep wanting to improve and be the best, runner or triathlete or whatever it is you're focused on.
Yeah.
And I know you've talked a lot about just, okay, you're 50 or a little over 50. I won't give away your age. No one would ever know. I'm looking at her right now via Zoom, that she was even close to 50. But how has age played a role in all of this? It's like you seem to get better and faster and stronger as you age, But so many people just shy away from doing anything, especially even competitive or a new sport or a new skill, because they think they're too old, whatever that means anyway.
Right. So I think that's really important, is that I guess I was in my late 30s when I first got into triathlon. And in my early 40s, I thought, okay, this is fun. But I met a coach who told me I could do more, and said I should go to the U.S. National Championships for age grouper, which is, a level below elites, but still you're competing against the best in your age group in the country. And I thought, how cool that in your 40s to think that you're trying something at a new level. So I think, like, to me, age doesn't define you. It is an opportunity. I read a lot of books. I'm sitting here next to some of them. One's called Fast After 50. Another one, my favorite book, and people hear me quote it all the time, is Grit by Angela Duckworth. And that's a great, just, being gritty in something. The question is, are you born with it? Can you learn it? But I think if you're going to start sport after 50, you've got to have a little grit.
And do you think you're born with it, or what is your thought on that?
Oh, that's a good question. I think some of it you are, but I for sure think that you can learn it. And I think actually times like these that we're going through right now, we're all getting a bit grittier, right? Because we have to dig deep to figure out how to get through this and wake up every day and get done what we need to get done. So it's not necessarily fun. It's not easy, but hopefully we're all going to come out of it stronger.
Absolutely. So what are some, I don't know if it's like mental strategies, or what do you use to kind of dig deep and figure out how to get through it, and I know you talked about having coaches and things like that.
Yep. So years ago, when I first started running marathons, Harvey McKay wrote an article, and I've put it in my various Facebook posts over the year. And his article was being, let's see, I want to get the quote right, being persistent and determined in the marathon of life. And he had run marathons. And I think that for me, it's a work ethic I've always had, but I think it can be learned too, that you don't give up. It's like teaching your kids that, like, you're running the 50-yard dash, you see a kid in front of you, and you think, oh, I'll give up. I'm not going to win this race. But the kid trips. You still have opportunities. There's always an opportunity. And maybe that wasn't the best analogy, but I think that you never give up. And for me, I kind of go deep, and I just, I know, a lot of coaches will say, like, it's going to hurt. So you embrace that pain and use that pain. When I'm nervous and I get anxious, I find that actually as a positive, because I'm able to use that energy to move forward.
So how do you do that? Because a lot of people, when they feel anxious, shy away.
Or shut down.
You're shut down, right? And they can't perform. Like, they literally can't.
So, it's a learned thing. And I think that you have to learn to lean into it and say, these nerves are what are going to help me get through it. I used to say to my sister, oh my gosh, I'm not very nervous. It's not going to be a great race, because I had learned to use that energy and somehow embrace it, and know that, first of all, it's just a race. And I'm grading my performance more than anybody else. And that there's always opportunities to get better. And I think that's what keeps me going too, is that there's always an opportunity, and we can all learn from our mistakes. And I see that as the growth potential.
So That's amazing, first of all. And I'm hoping that your kids are learning that through you. And that's what an amazing role model you've set for them. But shifting gears a little bit, I'm curious about the racing community. Can you talk about that community you're part of? How much of your life is that? And kind of what have you gotten out of that community?
Sure. That's been huge, honestly, for me, is the community, especially when I stopped working. I used to joke, after my initial swim coach, I found a master's swim group. Actually, I found a women's track group through my sister. We met just randomly at Washburn Track and ran outside together, pushing each other. Someone wrote workouts. One of the women who was there happened to be a swim coach and ran a master's group. Masters being anyone out of school. And I joined that group, and then I used to call it my ECFE for adults, because
I love that.
Yeah, through that group, I ended up with a college advisor. I ended up with an ACT tutor. 3 weeks into joining the group, or meeting this woman in the group, my house was broken into. And at the next swim practice, one of the women who I'd only known for 3 weeks showed up with a bottle of wine and a basket of bread. So it really became this community. Even though we saw each other to work out, we learned a ton about each other. And we all have different goals. Some people are just maintaining fitness. Some people are nursing an injury, so they're swimming. Some people are swimmers from, 4 years old and collegiate level. And some of us are still learning how to swim better. So that's swimming. You had asked earlier about where I work out. I currently am at the Calhoun Beach Club. I tend to use a club in the winter for indoor treadmill running and strength training. I have a bike that's set up on an indoor trainer, and I'm part of the Zwift community. Zwift is an online training platform.
Can you spell that?
Sure. Z is in zebra, WIFT.
Oh, Zwift. Okay.
Yep. And in fact, I just learned how to race on Zwift, which is pretty fun and kind of giving me that endorphin rush that I need. So biking, and I also bike outside in groups. I led a bike ride for Eric's Bike Shop for 7 years. And when that kind of evolved into something new, I now train with a regular group, including my husband, for biking. And then running, a lot of times I like to just go get lost by myself and have some me time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, one second, Stephanie. I have 2 questions about your training schedule.
Yeah.
Are you mostly training with men is one of my questions. And my second question is, how much time per week do you devote to this?
Okay. So I do find myself training with a lot of men. There are a couple women who I train with in the gym and pool. But for riding and running, just so it turns out, mostly I train with the guys. And as far as triathletes, both genders, I didn't even get into that. Community is huge, and we can talk about that in a second. Sorry, the second part of your question.
It was just like, how much of a time commitment is your training?
Yeah. So I train probably off-peak season, which, so racing is usually done August, September, and then I won't race again till May or June. So in off season, it's probably 8 hours a week. And that includes some yoga and strength, biking, running, swimming. I tend to mountain bike in the fall, just because the risks are higher of getting injured, and I have a whole history of that. And then in season, probably 10 to 14 hours a week.
Okay. So it's a pretty big time commitment in
It is.
especially, right?
It is. And, you know, I'm fortunate that my husband likes to bike and run as well. He doesn't love to swim.
Mhm.
A lot of it I try to do early in the morning before the kids are awake, although they're older teenagers. So that means morning doesn't even start. Oops, I'm not hearing you.
Are you there? I think you froze up for a second.
Oh, sorry. I'm here.
So do your kids ever, you have teenagers, it sounds like, do they ever
Yeah.
join you? Do they like to run or, you know?
Not so much. But, you know, it's interesting because I'll say to my husband when we were their age, so our kids are 17, 19, and 21. They're all into sports, but different. I have a gymnast, a skateboarder, snowboarder, and a tennis player. Although my son, who's 19, does work at Eric's bike shop, so we share that love of bikes. But, you know, I didn't really get into running until post-college as a stress reliever. So I kind of feel like I've set the role model, and when they choose to find what works for them, I hope that I've set a good role model for them.
Well, I'm sure you have. And I think with, you know, Marnie and I both have kids and teenagers, and they're not going to do what you do right now anyway. They're trying to pave their own path and they want to be independent.
Right.
I think just knowing that you're setting this good example for them and you're such an amazing role model will take them far, you know, in life and as they get into adult years. So
Yeah.
And clearly they're seeing what it's like to work hard. I mean,
Yeah.
to work for something and work hard for something you love. Which
And
I
was just going to say, and I think, you know, I've been fortunate to do well in a lot of these races. And so sometimes when I don't, I think it's as important to show them that too. And I might be mad and frustrated and go through like the list of things that didn't go my way or I could have done better. But the lesson that I want to show them is I'm picking it up and doing it all over again and working harder and not placing blame on others. And I think those are great life lessons.
Oh, absolutely. What do you think there's something innate or from your childhood, or have you always been this driven and competitive? Sort of a lot of this sounds like happened a little bit later in your late 30s where you got into these competitive races, but tell us a little bit about your
so that's
early on.
Interesting. I was a gymnast growing up, and we did practice a ton. I mean, I started probably pre-K and did it through high school, and I loved it. And I did some coaching, but probably a turning point for me was when my sister made the team and I didn't, and I can't remember. We were probably in elementary school, and the coach, when I finally made the team, my coach said that my sister had natural ability, but I worked for it. I think by not making it, it was actually, again, it was a blessing because I learned to work for what I wanted. And I would say by nature, my mom is super competitive. She doesn't love to train, but my dad has that piece. He's works hard. He did his first triathlon actually at the age of 70.
Which is amazing in itself.
Yeah,
I think that's so cool.
Okay, maybe there's hope for me then.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, he surprised all of us. He had a fear of swimming and quietly behind our backs took swimming lessons. So, that's why I'm saying you're never too young to sport or to try a new sport. In fact, I mean, that's what keeps me going is that sport changes, new sports. A couple of years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I asked my husband, I said, for Mother's Day, can I have 6 hours and $100? And he looked at me like, what? Like, what do you want? And I wanted lessons up at the velodrome in Blaine. And so I took lessons to learn how to race up there and improve my bike skills. So for me, you know, that was pretty scary. I was turning 50 or close to it. And again, trying something totally different. So
Is that mountain biking or what is that?
no, it's so the velodrome is, sadly now it's closed. It was built for the Olympics years ago, which or Olympic training. It was a wooden track with a slope, graded sides to it. So it involves learning how to ride your bike around this track and stay upright. And I remember in the first lesson, they said, don't worry, if you are going over 14 miles an hour, you won't slide down the wall. So,
Wow.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah. So it's just a different type of riding. And for me, it was really about, again, gaining new skills. I was looking not necessarily just to race up there, but to help me as an athlete. And so some of the other sports I engage in, like mountain biking, are also to go back and help my triathlon skills. But then I end up finding a new love of a new sport too. So
Yeah. Well, and all that cross training is probably very beneficial.
Yeah.
Too, for your body. So what was it like participating in nationals and then going to Europe for the international competition?
So talk about nerves. That takes the angst to a whole new level. So up until the first time I raced at nationals, I really hadn't traveled. Well, I guess I had traveled out of the state twice for a race, but I really raced locally. Just having kids and that's, you know, something that's important to know, that you don't have to do all these big races to call yourself a triathlete. We have some amazing things in our backyard. But for me, wanting to take my racing to the next level, I decided to go to nationals, and it was amazing showing up. First time out there, looking around, and you know, the interesting thing about triathlon is they write your age on the back of your calf. So you're walking around looking at people's bikes, at their stuff, going, are they in my age group? But bottom line is, the only thing you can control is what you are doing out there. And so my coach has been great about that, about just saying, you're not going to control other people's races, so you focus on you. Honestly, I would have, if you asked me 20 years ago if I would ever stand on a national podium, I would have said, are you kidding me? But I did have that opportunity a few times to place at nationals, and it was amazing. I felt, you know, for me being just, I don't know, I just don't look at myself as that kind of athlete. So it felt like, wow, I'm a part of something really big here. And that was really cool. And then so if you place at a certain level, you're then selected for Team USA. And I qualified a few times, and actually participated 3 times, most recently in Switzerland last fall. And that was just amazing. There's nothing like coming together with people from all over the world. You're representing your country. You're there to do your best, but also to represent your country. And it's a really powerful feeling, racing in a Team USA kit, and then coming, as you're about to come across the line, the team coach hands you an American flag and you cross with it. Yeah, it's really powerful.
I just got the chills.
Awesome. I know.
That's so cool.
What an honor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like being in the Olympics. I would consider it to be like at the same caliber almost. Yeah.
I mean,
For
it's
me,
like,
it certainly was.
you're talking, I mean, clearly you devote a lot of time to this, but it's like you said, you started in your 30s, and this was kind of like a stress release from work. And here you are racing for Team USA in Switzerland. Like that's really cool.
Thank you. And I think the thing that keeps me going is I look at it and I'm like, wow, what could I do better? And a lot of times they'll say, running, there's some people would say that you reach your max peak 10 years after you started your running career. And I just refuse to believe that. Now, as you get older, certain things happen, and physically, my pace might not be where it was. But see, sports like swimming and biking that I haven't been doing as long, so efficiency can help me gain what maybe I can't gain because of my age. So
what about your relationship with your coach? Can you talk about that a little bit? I know you mentioned that you have a coach that you adore, and what is it like to work with a coach that's so focused on you and your success?
Yeah. So my coach is Chris Swartz from Final K Sporting Services. Chris is amazing. I joke that he is, along with being a coach and giving me structure and advice, everything from, the workouts to nutrition to helping me build my new bike. I call him my therapist as well, because when I have that angst the night before the race, I am texting him a million times. I told him he should probably write a book with the dumb questions triathletes ask, like things that, I know I've been doing this for so long, and yet I get those same nerves first race. I get the same, first race of a season, or even the fifth race of the season. And sometimes we forget things or just need a little reminder. So I depend on my coach for a lot of things. I probably text him every day. Sometimes, we've become friends. He's been my coach for 5 or 6 years. So, he's seen me go through a lot of things, life, kids stuff. And I think that having a coach helps you balance your life better. I'm definitely more efficient, when because there's a cost benefit analysis, right? It definitely costs money. It's not cheap. But I remember saying to my husband, the efficiency is a huge win. As a triathlete, triathletes are notorious for overtraining because we have 3 sports to train for. And you never feel like you're doing enough. But in fact, we probably do too much and then end up harming our bodies. So he'll tell me to pull it back. I can text him in the morning and say, this is what I'm feeling. Like, for instance, I, got a mountain bike pedal to the shin last week. He had to go in and change my training plan because I couldn't run. Little things like that. Whereas I would probably take a lot longer to analyze what to do. And he just, boom, takes that thinking out of it for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, Marnie and I are big believers in coaches. I think everyone needs a coach at various points in their life and for different things. And so.
And actually, that's what I was thinking, just like you guys are coaching people through life, like we all at different times of our lives need different types of coaching, right? And I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely. Because sometimes it's a lot easier to give out advice than it is to take it in. And so we could all use a little nudging along the way.
Yep. And someone a little further away looking in without,
And without judgment and without that inner self-critic that can sometimes creep up on us. So
exactly.
So I have to ask, you talked about that your coach provides you, some nutrition advice, obviously the training programs, but what do you, and especially for a woman and within your age group, how do you fuel your body for this ultimate performance that you?
Well, so that is not my strength. I'll start right there. Because I've been lucky in that the amount of hours I put in, I've been fortunate that I can eat a lot of what I want to eat. The older I get, though, I definitely am seeing a difference in how my body reacts to things. So actually a couple of years ago, I did my first cleanse, and with a couple other triathletes. And I found since then, I definitely have cut down on sugar, although I'm still chocolate fanatic.
Yeah.
But just trying to, the whole theory of the outside of the grocery store, trying to be healthier. Now my kids have food allergies, so things that other people might go to, like nuts and things like that, are a no-no in my house. So that makes it a little trickier. And my coach really, like for me, nutritionally, we talk about how many calories you need when you're racing, what will work for you. Some supplements, such as like having salt in a marathon or longer distance racing. And then I actually just was listening to a book called Roar. And I don't have it here, but she talks about women, not treating women like tiny little men. And what we need to put in our bodies. So definitely I see that as room for improvement. So that's one of my goals.
Well, we'd be happy to help you out anytime with that. So what would you say is the biggest impact racing's had on your life?
Probably two things. Number one, self-confidence. Because I was pretty quiet in high school. I got more outgoing in college, but I never would have expected myself to be out there. And I still kind of like to race quietly, right? Like race quietly and then hit the podium, like not be all confident and go in. But it has built my confidence. And racing is also really about the community to me. I have met so many incredible people that I feel like I would have never had the opportunity to meet. In fact, it's funny, we talked a little bit earlier about my marathon training. Right after Boston Marathon, like 7 of us got pregnant in the next year, 7 women that we had all run together. And we called those kids the Boston babies. And and now those kids are 21 and 22. And a couple of, like 5 of us with our spouses just got together again. And we have maintained relationships through sport, which is pretty cool to be together that long. So.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I mean, community is such a big part of, I think everyone, how you connect with people and the overall joy that you have and your happiness and your health.
And it really crosses, all ages too, this community. I network with my friend's son, who is a college triathlete. Yesterday, someone reached out to me because they know someone who wants to be a college triathlete. I served as an ambassador to the USAT Foundation, raising money for triathlon. And I think because what racing has given me so much, like I think it's great to give back to the community.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's great.
That's so cool.
So how do you suggest someone gets involved with training, or if they want to do their first triathlon, what tips do you have for someone that's, works out, but doesn't competitively do any racing? Or like myself, I've always thought, oh yeah, I would like to do a triathlon, and the swimming is what completely scares the hell out of me.
So the first thing, we'll go in order of the sport because it's swim, bike, run. So with swimming, I would say going in and taking even one swim lesson. There are some great programs. I swim with a group called I Swim Masters in Eden Prairie. But there are some other great swim programs. The Twin Cities is really lucky to have a lot of them. And if you take a lesson, it will improve your confidence. Then it's really about practice. In fact, here's another funny story. My very first triathlon where I did the whole thing, we finished the race and my husband said, "Did you all see all those people in the lake like fake swimming because it was so shallow?" And I laughed. I said, "Yeah, I was one of them. I was walking and like doing the arms." Like, why not?
Yeah.
So I've come a long way, but really it's about putting the time in. And then I think I like a master's group because there's still coaching, so technique. And I find, since swimming isn't my favorite, that getting in the pool with others holds you accountable. This summer might be a little different, so with everything going on. And then I would encourage people even to get in the lake and just, start with a couple strokes, get your head up. My dad did his first race and half of it was side stroke and backstroke. I thought my mom was going to die, but
That would
he
be
did
me.
it.
That would be
Yeah, but he did it.
I did a lot of mine doing breaststroke because the swim is really why I stopped doing triathlons, because it just freaked me out so much in the lake with all those people. And the bike and the run were fine, but it was the swim that just put me over the edge.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's good to practice. And it is, you're right, Marnie, in that a lot of people, it's a different kind of swim. And so even practicing, like I'll go out and swim with my husband and I'll swim right at the back of his feet. So I practice, what's it like to have someone in front of me? Because that happens. You get, it feels like a washing machine, like you jumped in.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and then with biking, I think the best advice I have is don't go out and buy a new bike right away. Use what you have. My first race bike, my husband and I both raced on the same bike. It was my brother-in-law's road bike with down tube shifters. And we still have that bike. Now it's our commuter bike, but you don't need all the fancy gear to do this sport. You just need to be willing to go out and give it a try. So, and biking is really just, again, about being comfortable, and being comfortable going out there and doing it. For usually a sprint race is probably 12 miles. So knowing that you're going to need to go at least 12 miles on a bike. And people do it on mountain bikes, road bikes, hybrid bikes. And then running, most of us can run, but I would say if you're going to do your first triathlon, the thing that gets most triathletes is, we call it a brick, where you're going from the bike to the run. So I highly suggest that you practice transitioning from your bike to your run. And that's kind of a short answer for that. But there's a lot of practice that goes into it.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Would you recommend someone starts with a marathon or a triathlon?
Oh, I think you can jump right into triathlon. In fact, my sister did her first Ironman without ever having done a marathon. She looked at my marathons and said, "I don't need to do one genetically. I know I could." So,
wow.
But I think, I think you need to prep your body to be able to run. Most sprint triathlons are about 3 miles, and you can walk it. But there are a lot of great programs out there, like online, that you can look up as far as building a base to be able to run 3 miles. But just know that that comes at the end of your swim and bike. So if you think the whole thing is going to take a couple hours, maybe practice being active for a couple hours.
That's great advice. Well, I still have it on my bucket list, so we'll see what happens. Maybe when
maybe 2021, the Art of Living Well, we'll do a triathlon.
That's a great goal, Marnie.
I'm serious.
I'll help you guys. Yeah.
And we will be reaching out to you, Laura, to be our coach.
New business for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up the interview, we always like to ask our guests, what does the Art of Living Well mean to you?
I guess the art of living well to me is really about being the best person that I can be. And for me, sport has helped me do that, specifically triathlon, helping me with my community. My kids know that I'm a better mom when I get a workout in and a cup of coffee. And then learning, which I'm still learning, to fuel my body to set me up for success. All of that. And I still see opportunity in my 50s to improve my sport and athletic life.
That's wonderful.
That's
so inspiring for people that think, oh, I'm 45, I can't do this. Like, I'm too old for this.
Yeah, nope. I think, and I think that now with everything going on, it's really important for us to get out and move, whatever your moving is. So
absolutely. And I love just the comment that you're a better mom. When you've had your workout in, and especially I think for a lot of newer moms out there, like, take the time for yourself, because you need it for the mental state and the stress relief and all the things you talked about early on in this conversation.
Yeah.
And how can our listeners find you if they want to learn more about you?
Sure. So the best way to find me is on Instagram. It's Laura Swartz Rocks is my handle. And I post about my athletic endeavors, sometimes my family, sometimes products that I've been using, or sponsors. So
great.
Well, thank you so much. This was a very inspiring conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you guys too.
Thanks. Bye, Laura.
Thanks. Bye.
We are so excited that we created these fabulous new products for our listeners to support our podcast.
Yeah, we have 2 new recipe books, and one is curated for families. So there's lots of family-friendly recipes that both kids and adults will love. I've made these recipes for my family, and everyone enjoys them. And then we have a second recipe book for those that want plant-based foods, and maybe you're already eating vegan, or maybe you're just trying to incorporate more vegetables and plants into your diet. They both have shopping lists, and they're made with ingredients that you can find at almost any grocery store. You don't need to go to like a specialty store to find these ingredients.
And we also created a Minneapolis Healthy Restaurant Guide, and we're really excited about it. We want to support our local restaurants, and it's really meant for you to find little gems in town that maybe you didn't know about. It gives you a chance to eat healthy out in a restaurant. The food is delicious at these places. They're sourcing local, sustainable foods, and we're just really excited to support our local healthy restaurant community.
And then the last product that we created is our favorite Art of Living Well podcast water bottle. It's 24 ounces. You may have heard us talk about this on stories. Because it serves both hot and cold beverages. There's a straw. You can use it or use it without the straw, and it's perfect for on the go, at home, wherever, and it'll help keep you hydrated. So we'd love for you to try our products and support our podcast. As our listeners, you can head on over to our website, which is www.theartoflivingwell.us/products, and order yours today. Maybe even give one as a gift.
And also, just to let you know, we priced all of these products pretty low so that everybody could enjoy them. $7 per guide, $20 for the water bottle, and we love your support. Thank you so much for listening to the Art of Living Well podcast. We are so grateful that you joined us today.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or anyone else you think may benefit from this information. We'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, and tag the Art of Living Well podcast on social media.
If you want more inspiration in between episodes, you can find us on social media at theartofliving_well on Instagram and Facebook, where we will share snippets from our daily lives and our journey to living well.